Microphone's on, everybody.
Careful.
Good evening. I'll now call the work session of the Richland Hills City Council to order. The time is 5:31. Item 1A is discussion of the items listed on tonight's City Council agenda. No formal action will be taken during the work session. Each action item will be considered during the regular session. Jason, there's some items you want to go over for us?
So, Mayor, we do have some of your new business items specifically to the budget and tax rate for the work session, item 1C. And so we can talk about the budget stuff at that point. If you have any questions about the ATMOS rate increase that's on your consent agenda, that's a standardized resolution that our attorneys have reviewed across all the steering committee cities. So happy to answer any questions related to that item. Otherwise, the other two, item 1B and 1C, will both be discussed on those sections.
Okay. All right, so now we'll move on to item 1B. It's a discussion item regarding the city's code compliance community strategy, including tree limbs, high grass and weeds, and other approaches to increase compliance. Jason, can you present this item to us?
Yes, sir. We talked a couple meetings ago about the tree limbs and the letters that went out, and I just wanted to come back to you and give you an update on that. We have had several compliance properties comply with that. We have also not pursued any citations related to those at this point in time, but we did receive some quite a bit of compliance. But going forward, we'll continue to monitor those, not just those properties, but high grass and weeds, anything urgent, as far as our code compliance strategy. And I've talked to a few of you about this, but when we look at code compliance, if you think about a pendulum, okay, we can go all the way to one side where we're like an HOA. You know, it's every time there's a violation, we immediately send a NOV, a notice of violation. They have 7 to 10 days, depending on what it is, to remediate, or a citation is issued. What that means is we immediately send out the letter, we come back, and we have to re-inspect after that 7-day, 10-day period. JP, is it 10 or 7? 7 days. And so that is a follow-up process that we'd have to employ, which we do, but to ensure that every time there's a notice of violation issued, we're now utilizing both iWorks and Trello to be more efficient in that process, also to track so that staff, myself, and JP and his team can see where code issues have had those issues, the compliance letters sent. So there's the pendulum where we're sending them the immediate notice of violation. Then there's the other pendulum. If you swing it back the other way, we have the courtesy letters that we could send out to say, hey, you may not have known, but there are subdivision and code compliance requirements as a property owner in the city. And so we want to bring these to your attention. You are in technical violation of this specific one or multiple, and we are asking for your help to comply. And then beyond that, if nothing is returned or commented or anything's done, then we move into a notice of violation. And in some cases, we have provided courtesy notices in multiple occasions to try to assist before a notice of violation is entered. Obviously, I think both extremes don't really work well, and for council's benefit, you're going to get complaints on both ends. You're not hard enough. You're not, staff's not, making these property owners clean up, or you're too hard on citizens that can't do some of these things themselves. So we just wanted to have this as a council direction of, obviously, we're going to use common sense, and I think with our code officers, that's what they do. But we want to prioritize what you believe to be the urgent matters, that, hey, these things need to go straight to a notice of violation, or repeat offenders need to go straight to a violation. the city doesn't have the resources to go abate every single problem. We can't go mow everybody's yard. Just because we can put a lien on the property doesn't mean we're ever gonna get that revenue back. In some cases where it's a health, life safety issue, we would recommend abatement. And we have done those over the last year and beyond, prior. So I wanted to ask council for some direction, so we can pass it along to staff on, number one, what are those urgent matters that you want us to really focus on? And then two, what's kind of communication strategy to the residents? We can do educational campaigns. So on the slide, we can do videos, we can post more communication to the residents, informing them, these are our codes. These are the time of year that, we have bulk pickup so that people can really plan for those out in advance. So I think a combination of things from staff's perspective, we're ready and able to do with your direction on what you see as more the urgent and strategy for how we write tickets or pursue these complaints.
Where are we right now on this pendulum?
Well, in
Our current
a couple
guidance?
cases, both, where we've issued courtesy letters. JP may be able to speak better to this if you'd like to jump in.
Yeah, as Jason mentioned, we are, I think in a transitionary phase. 2 or 3 months ago, when I first kind of took over community compliance, we were still certainly trying to be as courteous as possible, as flexible as possible. So we were seeing a courtesy letter and maybe a notice of violation letter, and sometimes in cases where staff was trying to be as flexible as possible, a third letter. And then it wouldn't be until it was a pretty severe case that they would move towards a citation. That mentality has shifted over the last 2 to 3 months, and staff has been open to that transition. They've been comfortable with moving towards either not even doing a courtesy letter, but one notice of violation, and then, depending again, using common sense, making a call at that point whether they should go straight to a citation or work with the resident or business owner to find compliance. So previously, it was a much more kind of gradual process, but I can tell you that over the last 2 to 3 months, staff has been far more aggressive in citing, communicating with residents and business owners, and then making the call on whether they should go for the full citation or, again, give them a little bit more time to find compliance. But ultimately, at the end of the day, with the goal of, if they're not finding compliance or they don't have a legitimate excuse or reason, ending up at a point of citation.
How's that working out?
I would say, according to the conversations I've been having with staff, they've felt a lot more confident with how quickly compliance has been coming over the last 2 or 3 months.
And I'll add that you as a council will receive the complaints kind of on both ends, right? So when we sent the tree letters, they were a little bit more firm in, hey, you need to comply within the next 7 days. And I think that a lot of you got complaints that, hey, staff didn't give us enough time or heads up. And then if we, again, don't, then there's gonna be complaints that my neighbor's grass is growing through the fence. And so we wanna make sure we're monitoring also, or trying to mitigate what kind of responses council's receiving.
So if there is a 7-day window, they can always come back to and speak to code enforcement and say that, I need another 3 more days, or I need another 10 days. So they can come back and do that, right? The residents can come back. It's not a hard and fast rule that it's going to be 7 days, and after 7 days, you are going to be issued a citation. Is that correct? Or
If we're going to issue a citation, that letter has to be very legal and firm. It doesn't appear very flexible, so when you receive that letter as a resident, you're going to read it as, oh my gosh, they're coming after me.
Yep.
We can supplement that, I think, with a courtesy letter that goes on top of it that explains it, probably more friendly, and then the actual NOV is primarily legal language.
yeah, I mean, I hate for it to be an open-ended stuff that, you send a courtesy and then you send another courtesy, and then we don't have the staff for that, and we don't have, something for them to keep going back to the same issue while the grass keeps growing. So I see, a 7-day window, and then if they haven't,
Yep.
if they have a an issue of complying at that point, they can always come back and get a little bit more, you know, a little more grace period.
That's kind of what I was thinking. If you go give them a, I'd say a medium between very courtesy and strict, maybe somewhere in the middle there. If that's not done in 7 days and they haven't contacted us, then maybe we can contact them and say, is there a problem? Because they may need some help as far as who they can go to that can help them. You know, seniors helping seniors and that kind of stuff. So they may need some information on who they can ask for help if they don't have any help.
So basically, a courtesy notice that says 7 days, and then a notice of violation is 7 days, so that we've got an opportunity between the courtesy notice and the notice of violation to potentially work something through.
Well, not in the middle. You give the courtesy letter after that 7 days, rather than just issue the violation letter, you go speak to them and find out what's going on. If,
they're
necessarily
home.
staff's job to
Right.
contact, I mean, they've already contacted, and I know that is the courteous thing to do, but it's also on the homeowner and their responsibility to say, hey, if I'm having trouble and I can't meet this deadline, then I need to reach out and find out what can
What-
be done.
What are my options? Yeah.
And
maybe we could put that on the courtesy letter. If you're having trouble with being able to get this done, call this number and speak to us.
So you're talking about an
And-
explanation letter, which he, like what Jason said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before just giving that along with the citation, correct?
No,
Or you're
just-
doing
No,
just 7
no.
days that and then
In
7
the
days?
first courtesy letter, explain to them if you're having trouble getting this done, because you live alone, you can't do it, you know, you don't have any family that can help you, or anything like that. If you have issues where you feel you cannot get this done, call this number and talk to us. At that point, we can help them find whatever they need to help them do.
I think I could work
It's-
with Elizabeth on adding that to the notice of violation letter so that it's all encompassing on one. That way, if we need to take action, we've already satisfied the state requirements. in our-
And then after that 7 days, you can do a violation letter, and then after that 7 days, you go with the citation.
No, see, but the problem is,
The initial letter
you're
is a
talking about
violation
21
letter.
days before they even, so that means 3 times they've gone there
Right.
for the same thing. It takes 21 days, you're saying, 7 days and 7 days and 7 days, and other time the grass is grown, you're pissed off the neighbors, you know,
Well, the initial letter is a violation. It's saying, hey, you have this issue. I mean, it might be nicely worded, but
Yeah.
it's still a notice of violation.
We had a resident across the street, they called me and said, hey, this guy won't cut his grass, you know, and they go out, and it took, I can't tell you how many weeks it was, 6, 8 weeks, but his grass, I looked at it, it's just horrible. And that just takes too long. When somebody obviously doesn't want to take care of it, that's what
And see,
I think you have to give them a
Exactly.
violation right then, so.
because
it's
that
obvious
makes,
they're not doing
that
it.
makes those people and their neighbors think that the city is not doing anything. They are not listening to us,
Right.
it's, that perception comes along, right? Because we are keeping them it for so long. But we know that there's a process in place, 7 days, within 10, 15 days, it's gonna be done. We
Right.
just go there once, we give it to them, and then they have their options.
So I think being more strict would be on repeat offenders,
Absolutely.
Yes,
And-
safety, but, you still wanna give them a notice.
And hazardous
Hazardous
situations.
situation. I don't think you necessarily want to give them a citation the first time if it's hazardous, because they may be unaware, or like you said, had a struggle, or whatever it is, but be more diligent with those situations that are safety hazards or health hazards. What else?
Those that are not in compliance after being told to comply.
Right, yeah,
Repeat, yeah.
defiant.
and probably some names of places where you can get help for the seniors. If you could
Like
put
our
that also,
resources?
like resources,
Right.
where you
Yeah,
can
that's
get some
supposed
help.
to go on the first
Uh,
letter.
Or even with Republic Trash, they can come and pick up your stuff, or whatever, you can
Yeah.
put those in
I
there,
think
helpful
that's a good
numbers.
thing too.
So
Oh.
I like what Jason said. He said we can kind of work on kind of a supplemental letter along with the notice of violation. And says, you know, blah, 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 this, blah, 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 you know. But I wanna I wanna make sure we don't lean on that too much, because it is the property owner's responsibility to follow code. And I know we have people in our city, like in any city, who literally can't do that, but, I want us to be kind of mindful that notice of violation's going out, and if they don't do anything in 7 days, they could go ahead and be cited. Probably won't be cited immediately, but it could be. So even with this supplemental letter, which he can work on, hey, listen, contact us, let us know if something's delayed, if you can't do it, here's some resources to possibly help, but,
Yeah,
Yeah,
the city just
yeah.
wants to see some kind of effort within
Yeah.
that time frame, and sometimes that effort is contacting the city to see what can be done. Because I know in the past, we've had issues with grass or home repairs and things like that, and the city is
right.
just working towards, a safe environment and compliance instead of,
So
citing people and being mean.
the challenge is how do we communicate to the neighbors, or the residents, that things are progressing? Because from the next door neighbor side, this was reported a month ago, they potentially don't even know that there's a citation in process or what's going on, and to them, it looks like the city just isn't doing anything.
They can contact the city and ask.
If they ask, and we can communicate on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then we can see it on Trello also, right? If
Yes.
once we get that, so then we'll know, and we can look at it and say, oh, something was issued so-and-so date, they're working on it.
Yes.
So it's on file,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that's good.
That's a huge resource, an
Yeah.
excellent resource for us, because we'll be able to answer the questions.
Yes. Let them ask us and we'll answer the question then.
So also, I want to mention the commercial corridors too, 26 and Baker next to the hike and bike trail, that was 3 feet high for months. And it ought to be happening very quick.
Yeah.
And put a lien on that property. That's not being moved by anybody, they're not interested in selling, so we should do that. If we can't go out there and mow all that, anyway, we could get it when it comes due. plus
Right now-
interest.
right
We had
now-
another one on 26, over there by those vacant properties, and it just got mowed, I guess, over the weekend or maybe Friday, I don't know. Looks nice now, but it's not a good look for our city too, for people to drive by, especially when they're trying to bring businesses in here, so.
We also need to make sure before we send out notices that the city is in compliance before we notify residents. Because I know we've had issues with that in the past. Well, why am I trimming my trees if you haven't trimmed your trees? So,
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
And it's fair.
we still have a problem in Booth Callaway, that empty property right next to, the tower.
Yeah.
It's-
You're right.
overgrown.
It's overgrown, and
Yeah.
it's always, and these are like repeat offenders.
Yeah.
We always go back and do stuff, and they come back and it's back together. And so we need to do something there,
So
because those are repeat offenders.
is it by law 14 days that you have to give them, or is it 10 days or 7 days?
7 days.
Yeah, it's 7 days, and it depends on what you're going to be doing. If you're just issuing a citation, you can issue a citation whenever, but if the city's gonna start the process of mowing the property and putting a lien on it, you have to give them 7 days.
Well, like the one on Booth Callaway, just a 7-day that's it, And then it can just stack up.
I mean, as Elizabeth said, though, if it's a repeat offender, we don't even have to send the
Yes.
We don't.
notice.
And I don't know for sure, it's been several years since I prosecuted here, but typically judges will have a tiered fee structure too, where if you're a repeat offender, the fine amount raises.
Okay.
Well, if we add that to the first letter, who they can contact for help, then by that 7 days is up, either they've contacted them or they're not wanting to talk to us.
Well,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
now
I
somebody's
mean,
gotta
that
go
gives
out
them
there
the
again.
time,
Yeah,
So
well,
now somebody's gotta go out there again and give them a citation?
right?
yes.
So 7 days and then citation?
Well, if they haven't reached out to us, yes.
For just a regular code, not a repeat offender then? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, just the regular, I mean, it's someone you haven't seen before or whatever. Give them that first letter. A repeat offender, we should have a difference.
So you don't like the courtesy cover letter and then this, you want to have a separate, complete separate one, or you want to have the courtesy one, like what he was talking about?
The courtesy letter goes out first. This is what you're in violation of. If you can't handle it, if you have issues, call these people, make a list of people they can call, or call us and let us
No.
work with you.
Call these people and us.
Yeah. And that way, if they're working with us, we can make allowances as to what they're doing when they can get it done, and as long as we know they're progressing. But anybody that doesn't contact us, then that just says they're just ignoring it.
Doesn't contact us or doesn't do anything about it.
Right.
Yeah,
Then they get a citation.
Yeah, calling us and saying I can't handle it, and then waiting a month, and calling and say I can't handle it, that's not fixing the issue. And we can't allow that.
Oh, we also need to take into account that those things are mailed and it says 7 days, and sometimes by the time you get
Yep.
it, you only have 3 days, or,
That's exactly
That's
it.
another little.
That's true.
That was like the letter from the trees.
Right.
Said you had 14 days, but it was actually about 9 days, so, anyway.
so one of the, just make sure I'm clear.
Yeah, it's clear as
Please
mud.
be.
We can do three things. One, we can put the courtesy information on the exact same form letter for the NOV. So that way, it's just 7 days.
Right.
But they have all the resources. If they don't contact us, it was also an NOV. Second thing we could do is put 2 letters in the envelope. One's the courtesy letter, the second one is the NOV, but that's just more printing.
Right, right.
And the third is a separate mailing, which costs more as well, but that would be the courtesy letter first and then the NOV, but
Let's do them on
I-
the
I
same
same sheet of paper. I think we
Same
can-
One.
mailing, even if it's
I-
front and back.
I think both in the same envelope. That way, this is a courtesy letter, but if you'll refer to the second page of this as a notice of violation that will kick in if you haven't taken care of this.
If you haven't
both-
reached out
both
to
in
us.
there, so you don't have to mail 2 different times.
Right.
I think we can, I'll have to talk to JP, because I don't know exactly what our letters look like, but it may be a front back.
But then there's
Yeah.
no
And that
error
works.
of, I didn't receive the second.
And that saves
Right,
printing.
right. I didn't see the second page. Why did you
Or
not
it-
tell me?
Or it just
Yeah,
didn't actually make it.
Write it big letters at the bottom, see back.
yeah,
So
something like
this
that.
has to be mailed, right? It cannot be like when the
It can
code
be hand
enforcement.
delivered. I mean, if
It
you
can be.
essentially, yeah.
Oh, but somebody has to be
somebody
there.
would have to sign
Yeah,
for it.
Okay, okay. So again, are we option 1, option 2, or option 3?
I think they should be on the same piece of paper.
One
I like
piece of
the
paper,
first
front and back.
I'm for first option.
Yeah, first
Yeah.
option.
Both
First.
at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah.
If we can do one piece of paper, that's better.
It all fits on the same size and
But
Okay, option
Okay.
1. Just one question I had, when new code enforcement officers come in, or like, how are they trained with our ordinances? I know they do go for training for code enforcement, but how do y'all train them with knowing our ordinances? Do they have just a list of ordinances they have to go through, or they'll go through the whole, the muni code and figure out each one of them? How do we do that?
JP?
JP, you're on.
Yeah, so what I've found over the last couple of months, it's really kind of a case-by-case basis. I mean, there's the obvious ones that every code enforcement officer, community compliance officer knows just from the general training, which is your property maintenance-oriented stuff. But we also rely on them pretty heavily with other zoning-related violations. Now, they never really had a formal training in zoning ordinances, and so it's weekly meetings. I have a meeting tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. that usually goes anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, once a week, where we talk about ongoing issues, things that they're seeing, things that I'm seeing, and just open communication. And so, they'll come across a food truck that's parked on a residential property, in somebody's backyard. They may not know exactly what the ordinance is that would prohibit that, but they ask, and when they reach out to either myself or Arden, we either know that information or we're able to do that research for them, and we have kind of an open communication to then inform them, yes, commercial load vehicles are not permitted in residential areas unless X, Y, and Z. And then we put together a report to kind of inform not only that specific individual, but the entire team, that that's now one additional thing that we're looking out for. That's not just necessarily a property maintenance code issue, that's a local ordinance thing that we've written in. And so it's a learning kind of process. It's a case-by-case basis. They know the property maintenance stuff. That's that's pretty standard. It's our local ordinances that we're also kind of figuring out as we go and coming across just from, you know, regular routines and regular, what do you call it? You know, inspections throughout the community. When they come across an issue or they receive a complaint, figuring out if it's a violation or not.
Some of the more challenging ones may be in the property maintenance code for commercial properties, and those are ones that we'll start looking at as far as you know, paint chipping on a front of a building.
What about things that are more hazardous, like on Pecan and Kingsbury, somebody's cut all their limbs and put them out at the street, and I mean, they're real tall, and you can't see if there's a car coming to the left.
Okay.
I mean, somebody could have a wreck that day. I mean, how do you take care of something like that that
You
really
should call in a
seems,
complaint,
seems to be immediate?
because code may not see it, so if you see it, call it.
And
I-
they'll look
yeah.
at it right then?
Yeah, and I could add to that. Once, if we get a call, typically we try to go out and inspect whatever anonymous complaint that we get or direct complaint the same day. Especially if somebody is very clear that they believe presents immediate danger, we will absolutely be going out there and investigating it that day. And something like that could be a property maintenance issue if it's overhanging into a public street, or it could also be a visibility issue, which we have visibility triangles, and so that's, again, more of a local ordinance, and so there's a couple different options that we can go for an issue such as that.
Okay.
So, slightly different angle on this. We've talked a lot about grass, we talked a lot about maintenance, but, you know, the trees are taking out our fire trucks. Trees are something, especially over streets at 14 feet, that's generally something to hire out. Somebody on Facebook had said the city used to do that. I don't think that we can do that except unless we did it maybe as a billable service, you know, flat bill to everybody for street tree maintenance. Could we put together an idea of what that would look like? And maybe bring it to the council so that we could consider it? Because, yeah.
Should we even have the staff for that?
No, I would contract it out through a service and,
Oh, I see.
and have them do the maintenance and we would monitor it, but it would basically be like an additional item on the water bill. I'm not suggesting that, you know, it's not in our budget. No way.
I think that would get messy, because then who participated in the service and who didn't, and who, you know.
Oh, no. It's either everybody in or everybody out, and we'd probably have to put it up for a
I'm not
vote.
paying for my neighbor to not go cut their trees.
Right, right.
Why wouldn't
same
you
here.
just have
Or what
a
if I don't even have trees?
have a user fee, just like your water bill?
That's what I was
You know, I pay
thinking.
more for my water if I water more. Why shouldn't I just pay for the tree that gets trimmed in front of my place and you not have to?
Well, wouldn't that happen if you
Yeah.
called
I just
somebody
call
on
and say
your?
I need that.
But that basically comes back to notice of violation.
Oh, but you're offering to pay for it, or for
Well,
us to have people pay for it. You're not talking about the NOV now.
Well,
No,
I'm looking at alternatives, because
Okay.
I mean,
we've got to get that cleaned up.
yeah, I know. So we got to get the trees cleaned up, but then we got to get the grass also mowed, right? So then you, in the same way, I can say that, hey, the grass is not mowed, let's call a company to come and mow the grass and we'll bill everybody for it. That's
No,
not the,
I-
that's
I'm
not the
not-
answer, right?
I'm not
Their job to
interested.
hold their
If
hand.
you're in violation in your property, then you need to pay and take care of it,
Right.
but period.
So, this is no secret, I'm up here, I have a disability, I'm legally blind. I, for the most part, trim my tree limbs. You know, and and if I needed to, yeah, I would have to get somebody out there to do it, or I'd have to pay somebody to do it. I don't typically mow my own lawn, just because family does not want me to do it because of my vision problem. They're concerned, so I don't want to pay the city to do it. Also, there's liability issues. Even if the city hired a contractor, there's liability issues. If they mess up somebody's tree, that could come back on us. You know, and if they're getting on private property, even if they're not going on private property, let's just say they're staying in the right of way, you know, there's still issues. But if they go on private property, hell no. I don't want anybody I don't hire personally to be on my property at all, so.
So so I'm hearing a very firm consensus that the case of trees, notice of violation, and press it. Because we can't be taking out our fire and ambulances because that gets very expensive.
I think if we provide the resources, I mean, the
If we,
Guidelines,
suggestions,
yeah.
yeah.
We have an ordinance for that. It's 14 feet or whatever, and we
Well,
need to just
even providing,
enforce it.
here are some places that you can call that's technically beyond our
Resources for the
responsibility. So
resident.
I
Oh,
think that's
so-
kind to include, and then they can contact those
Yeah.
places.
I think that's, I mean, that just is everything we can do
Yeah.
to help
Answer
them.
your question.
Yeah.
All right.
And we'll continue to evaluate other cities and best practices so that as we're evaluating ourselves, we're looking at what best practices are out there as well. Okay.
All right, very good. Thank you. Yeah, maybe you'll show us the letters before they go out, get an idea of
What
what
we,
they look like.
yeah, I can do that.
I think that'd be good.
Okay.
Appreciate
well,
that.
post it in Trello. There you go.
So item 1C is a discussion regarding the fiscal year 2027 budget and tax rate. This is for discussion only. We're not going to take any action at this time, but Jason, if you'll present this, please.
Yes. So we have a budget that has been prepared, that was in the attachment in the packet. This slide is slightly outdated as of 3 o'clock, but I had 5 separate actions related to the budget because we had adopt the budget, ratify a tax rate increase if we go above the no new revenue rate, and then the third was a public hearing, but I had 3 motions originally just to separate out the M&O, the INS, and the total tax rate. But after talking with Elizabeth, Texas tax code allows us to have 1 motion, and so I'll kind of go through the slides and show you what that is. So that would actually reduce it down to 3 instead of 5 separate actions. But the budget that's been attached and prepared for you, I've passed out a slide, and I'll pull it up here in a second, of a summary of all the funds, and that this will show you the beginning fund balance, proposed revenues, proposed expenditures, the ending fund balance. If there's a reserve requirement, there's a column there that shows you what that 90-day reserve looks like. 90 days is typically, we take the annual expenditure for that fund, we divide it by 365 days, and then multiply by 90. And that's similar to a 25% reserve. So we look at what the net is, revenues over expenditures, or if there's a negative, then it would be using fund balance. So we're either adding to the fund balance or taking away. And so that's what that summary sheet shows you. Now this is preliminary because we haven't finalized fiscal year 26. So what we've done is based it off of either what we know, based on some sales tax, in the general fund, the losses of one of our businesses that's lowered our sales tax collections. And then also we took what was adopted in the 26 budget. So if we didn't have a specific number readily available, then we used what was in the budget. So as we come before you in the next couple months in the next month with the fiscal year 26 revised budget, we'll take the adopted one. So every year we take you the adopted budget, you vote on it, and then at the end of that year, we'll revise that budget based on actual revenues and expenditures. But you're really just revising the expenditure side. So we'll bring that to you with an updated fund balance summary of each one of those major funds. This budget has 19 funds across that were budgeted in this. It is using a proposed tax rate of 0.569027. That's 56.9 cents per $100. And that's what that is the voter approval rate minus 1/1,000,000 of a percent, which is the voter approval rate. The voter approval rate is calculated by taking the maintenance and operations portion of the rate, multiplying 3.5%. So what's the revenue what's the tax rate that would generate the same revenue that we have this last year? Add 3.5%, and that's your voter approval rate. you set the maximum tax rate, back on August 10th, you set the maximum at the de minimis rate, and that was the .60949. And that number, was the highest limit without triggering an automatic election. So if you go above the voter approval but below the de minimis, so anything in between, voters can petition the tax rate with 5% of registered voters within 90 days of your consideration, can put it on a ballot to vote. If the citizens, if you did anything above voter approval and registered voters decided they didn't like that, they could come back and you would have a May election for the tax rate. So we would have already had people pay their taxes based on the rate that you set. If they came back and voted it down, it would drop down to the voter approval rate and you'd refund any overpaid taxes. So that's kind of the process. We looked at an M&O rate and debt service rate based off of what our existing debt capacity and capital is. That's the .138395. So that is paying for infrastructure, capital projects, one-time, expenditures for major items. And just to be very clear, City Council has the ability to issue an INS rate or develop that rate based off of your debt requirements, so principal and interest payments. So if you issue debt tomorrow, you would have to increase your INS rate when that bond payment's due in the future. So you don't necessarily calculate that as part of the voter approval rate or the de minimis rate. That's in addition to these other things. So the maintenance and operation is paying for the recurring salaries, annual purchases that are needed to run the city, and then the INS rate. And so combined, that's the .569,027. But you'll see on the slide, the .430,632, that's the maintenance and operations portion. And so that's what you're really considering for the voter approval rate. Add that to the .13895, and that gives you the total rate. So this is a summary slide for the budget based off of that revenue. And I'll point you to, the mouse will show up on the screen, but in the general fund, we have a 10.262 revenue and expenditure. So that's using, when we look in the general fund, that's where your M&O tax portion, that's where the tax rate is for the M&O. Okay, so .43
Yes.
0632 multiplied by the taxable value gets you the current property tax revenue. And that is higher than what it was last year. And so as you go through the budget process tonight, you have to read certain statements that explain that because you would be increasing property tax revenue about $90,000 over what you did last year. Which is a 1.78% increase on property tax revenue. And so that'll be in your motion to consider. It's an effective, it's a 2.34% increase on actual revenues. So we'll get into that on another slide, but you have the ability to use that voter approval rate to generate a balanced general fund budget. Okay, so that's the general fund. Utility fund is an enterprise fund, same with drainage. So those are based off user fees. We try to match cost of service, so we increase revenues or decrease revenues based on what the needed expenditures are. And what you see on the screen is a use of about $145,000 in fund balance. So you have a fund balance in the utility fund. This is water and sewer. So those are two different kind of divisions within the same, what we call the utility fund. So you would be utilizing fund balance to pay for that overage. And then you'll decide in October, what you want to do with utility rates based off of future capital projects and ongoing maintenance. That is not part of what you're considering tonight. Debt service fund, we are proposing to utilize fund balance. So if you look at the fund balance, the beginning fund balance on debt service fund, it's $741,160. we're proposing to use about 150,000 of that. Now, the reason that we even have that, because you may be asking, well, why would you even have a reserve fund in the debt service fund? And it's because the way that we're forced to calculate the debt rate and the revenue for the debt is we take our principal and interest payment that we need for that year, we divide by taxable value minus the frozen and exempt properties. There's about $184 million in that line in total value of people that have frozen, they have tax ceilings, whether they're disabled, they have veteran exemptions, or they just have the tax ceiling. So we can't use the calculation. So what happens is those people still pay their taxes. They still pay it based off of the rate. And so we get about $75,000 to $85,000 a year more than what the truth in tax calculation requires us to use. So that money goes into reserve. And so you can use that to basically buy down your next year's payment so that you don't have to increase the actual INS rate. So if we didn't use that money this year, the INS rate would actually be higher. So we're just using 145,000 of that reserve fund for this particular budget. And then the next group of funds are really, what you've had for one-time capital projects like the oil and gas fund, capital projects fund, drainage utility. So we have over, Connor's here, we have, I think, over $20 million, $27 million in outstanding drainage projects on the master plan. We've done millions of dollars worth up to this point with major improvements from detention ponds to underground box culverts that go all the way out south of the city, and that has taken a lot of people out of the floodplain that used to be near Rosebud Park. So there's been significant drainage dollars sent there. And so the drainage utility fund is primarily based off of what our debt payment is annually based on those rates. So we're not proposing any changes in the drainage utility as far as this budget goes. But that is something that you'll want to look at going forward as we're talking about capital needs. So if we've got $30 million in drainage projects that still need to be addressed, how do you fund that? So we can wait until some of the debt rolls off and that you could absorb some of that into issuing new debt related to the drainage fund, or look at a different fee structure. The Road and Street Improvement Fund has, last year, there's funding in that beginning fund balance because we were going to utilize cash from that program to use towards Glenview. So that, in my mind, and council will tell us if you want us to change this, but when we presented the CIP plan to you back in July, we did not use this fund for the major capital projects because it basically just wipes out the annual revenue. Instead, we're using this fund for mill and overlays and ongoing projects that you'll see improvements annually to the tune of maybe 8 to 10 streets a year with the county, with partnership with Tarrant County Precinct 3. So we're looking at about 1.275 million utilizing those, plus some of the cash that we have in the future for mill and overlays for this coming fiscal year. The RHDC, which is the Richland Hills Development Corporation, that is a Type B sales tax. And so state law says you can use that for parks and recreation, economic development purposes. Some cities have it tied to where it's only parks and facilities. Some have it where it's just economic development. We have the flexibility of both. One of the things you can't do is spend more than 10% of your annual revenue on marketing or promotions, which we don't do that, but just so you're aware, that is one of the restrictions. And so you had the RHDC board approve that budget at the last public hearing on the 17th. So there is, you can see a planned use of fund balance out of that fund, and that's for the Rosebud Park improvements for the restroom. That was a carryover from last year.
Yeah.
Vehicle replacement fund, this is what I wanted to bring up at this point, because looking at the voter approval rate, that includes funding in the general fund and the CCPD, okay, in the utility fund. That's how we're paying for our lease for vehicle replacements. The general fund and CCPD, we're actually we're having to cover the CCPD using fund balance this year. But if you could pull out that vehicle replacement allocation, which is about $406,000 on the lease for this year, for that portion, not the fuel and not the just equipment maintenance, but just the lease payment. If we can work with Enterprise and our financial advisor to pull that over to the INS side, that'll free up over $324,000 out of the general fund and CCPD. The rest is out of utility funds, so that doesn't necessarily change your M&O impacts. So over $300,000 just by switching it to the INS. Now that does impact your total tax rate from a typical homeowner standpoint. Is right now, if you put that money into your INS, that's about 3 cents on your INS tax rate that you would be, or about 17 cents, I'm sorry, instead of 13, you'd be almost 4 point something cents additional to pay for that in this budget. We're not there yet. Like we're not proposing that you do that, but that is a relief valve that we talked about previously that you could put in place for fiscal year 28 that will give us the time to move that from the M&O over to the INS so that you have the capacity in the M&O to continue funding public safety, the step plans, and additional civilian increases as we go for salaries.
So what's the level of confidence rate that we can move that from M&O to INS?
So there's two options. One is Enterprise works with us going forward, which they've committed to do. They've got other municipalities that they've done this with. It's just a matter of amending the agreement and how that's structured. The other option, which is a more nuclear option, would be to move away from Enterprise and go to a capital lease purchase like we do a fire truck on a 7-year tax note or something like that. There's capital lease programs through JP Morgan, who's our financial depository and financial institution for all of our funds. They offer that program through their services. So like we've been talking about options, but I think with Enterprise, we still have the best from a purchase of vehicles. They're the largest, so I mean, we get a better deal if you go with somebody that's buying that many vehicles. And it's been a very smooth process, I think, for our staff that's been managing that. They handle the maintenance, helping with making sure we've got any warranty issues and things like that. But it's a matter of how it's legally worded. Is this a lease or is this a purchase lease?
Yeah, bottom line, we're like 99.9 that we can do this.
We used to do it, yeah. So
So-
we had it on the INS side previously.
Yes.
Now, whether it's with Enterprise, I don't want to give you a 99%.
I'm not, it's just enabling more freedom in the M&O budget is the key piece.
Yep. Yes.
And we can do that.
We can. And to talk a little bit more about the INS rate again, let's assume that you approved the voter approval tonight. Here's a scenario where you move vehicle lease over to INS. We're talking about fiscal year 28. So what are we doing if we adopt this budget tonight? We're already looking at fiscal year 28 and how do we ensure that we're stabilized going forward and not have to go ask the voters for a lot of money in the future. And so this scenario allows you to move the qualifying payments, about $327,000 out of the M&O over to INS. We can actually put more of the eligible parks and recreation costs that are currently coming out of the general fund. Remember, we did an RHDC transfer to pay for some of it. We can pay for more with the current sales tax. And then you would have a proposed rate in 2028 that is below the de minimis for that year. So that's what that 62 cents, because that's accounting for the INS going up. So that's why that goes to 62. And again, you have the ability, if you're issuing debt for CO, certificates of obligation or tax notes, to move that INS rate based off what your debt payments need to be for that year. Any questions on, go back to this one real quick. So we have the TIF fund, that one is showing, an ending fund balance of 134,000, but that will actually be paid to Tarrant County. So we would keep the 1,002,000 in our strategic initiatives, and then 134,000 will go out the door back to Tarrant County. That's per, the tax code that allows you to dissolve the TERS and then give the participating entities their proportionate share. So based on the fund balance, they're about 11% of our total share. And then we had some investment income that we're crediting back to them as well.
So we checked for any obligations, right? We are all good.
We have 0 obligations.
So we're all good there.
Yep.
Okay.
The Strategic Initiatives Fund, you can see there, we've got we're projecting 1.8 million since we did not do the Safe Routes to School. And we did not transfer the 1 million from the general fund in the current year over. We're showing a beginning fund balance of 1.8. And then you're adding the 1 million from the TIF fund. We're spending some money on the ERP, which is the financial software, for Tyler to replace STW. And that's where that 277,312 is. So you end with a fund balance projected for 2.5 million. Okay, so remember that's for one-time purchases down the road. If you have capital needs or you have one-time needs to transfer that back into the general fund, you can.
So if we needed that to like fund the grant, our portion of a grant for Booth Callaway, this would work.
Yes.
It's short.
Any questions on this? I know that on the M&O rate, I'll have some additional slides when we get to the public hearing and on the budget portion. But any specific questions that I can answer or would be beneficial for the public?
So this takes care of this year. How much more of a challenge will next year be?
Well, yeah, on this slide here, you know, if we look at, of course, this is projecting 0 tax value change, okay?
Right.
We had a negative tax value change this year because of our business personal property that the state, so the state of Texas came out and said, we're gonna put a law in that exempts business personal property tax up to $125,000 on every business in the state. And that removed about $200,000 of revenue annually to the city. So if you're a fairly larger business that has over $125,000, and the way I describe the business personal property is if you took the building, flipped it upside down, everything that falls out of it, that's personal property. And if that value is more than $125,000, then you'll still get taxes from that. But if it's under, and a lot of our businesses are under that, they don't have to pay personal property. They're still paying the real property. So there's 2 components for commercial. You've got the real property tax and the personal property. The real property is charged to the owner of the building, the property, the land, and the personal property is to typically the tenant or the property owner if they're the owner as well. And then we had, you know, everyone's residential. If you got your tax bill or your appraisal notice, it should be fairly close to what it was last year and the year before.
Because we didn't.
And that'll go again for another year before it's, you know, reevaluated. And if you have a tax ceiling or frozen taxes, you know, those are implemented as well. So with all that to say, that if the tax value stayed the exact same, then your proposed 28 rate to have a balanced budget next year would be 62.2 cents. So that would be under the de minimis. So the de minimis allows you to take the no new revenue rate and add $500,000 to it, and whatever rate that is plus your debt is what the de minimis would be.
Okay, so, but if we were to go higher than what's in this sheet today, we got two pieces. One, our voters could sit down and roll it back to what we've got today. And if they choose to keep it, that takes pressure off of next year, because we'd potentially have higher fund balances going into the year. Now, hypothetically, would that allow us to potentially charge less next year below what the de minimis rate would be?
I mean, if you took it just offsets what gap you would have to work with.
Yeah.
So if you did something higher than the voter approval rate tonight, and voters didn't petition and they decided to keep that where it is, then your next year would be, your rate to go from voter approval to de minimis or no new revenue, you might be able to do closer to the no new revenue and not have to do the full 3.5, but it's still gonna be 0.622. So the point is
Add up
that
the same way.
you should add up primarily to the same, but it's taking the approach of, do you have a percentage increase this year, a bigger one or a smaller one, and then what do you have for the next year? So, and that's if we use the scenarios that are on the screen right here, then those are the pressure valves in staff's mind. If you wanted to do, utility rates and things like that, there's other things that you're gonna have to also look at going forward with pass-throughs that we have. But we'll bring those analysis to you in the next work session, council. But staff, from our finance team, this is the rate that you can afford to have a balanced budget. And it gives you the path to continue that into next year, so that, if you wanted to go to the voter approval next year, I think we're about $16,000 to $20,000 off. That rate is a little bit above voter approval. So if you were to look at, can we get efficient on $16,000 to $20,000? Absolutely.
You bet.
And that's our commitment going forward from tonight, is to already start looking at fiscal year '28. Not to mention economic development opportunities. We're very optimistic. We believe that we will have the opportunity zone in place in January of 2027, which will significantly enhance our investment outlook. So for people, outside investors, to come in to Richland Hills. So we're working on some exciting things that I think will help drive new revenue, sales tax specifically.
So it's like shooting pool. You're already setting up for the second shot and the third shot when you
Yes.
take that
There you
first
go.
shot. So
There you go.
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, I can relate to that. All right. All right, very good.
That's chess pool.
Anybody else have anything? Okay.
No?
Okay, so it's 6:29.
Got one
We will
minute.
adjourn this meeting, the work session, and then we'll start the regular session. Anybody want to take a little break? Feel free to.
You got 1 minute
Got 1
before you
minute?
can start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Run.
30 seconds, yeah.
So Lisa, it concluded at 6:29. We'll put it on the time.
I can just about lay back in this chair.
So yesterday,
Nobody can see me over the monitor.
That sounds like a win.
No, except you can see you here.
All right, here we go, folks. All right, welcome everyone. I'll now call to order the Richland Hills City Council regular meeting for August 24th, 2026. Time is now 6:30 PM. Thanks to everyone who joined us in person and online. Lisa, do we have a quorum here tonight? We do. All right, very good. All right, if everyone will please stand for the invocation, followed by the pledges of allegiance to the United States flag and the Texas flag. Heavenly Father, as we prepare to vote on this year's budget, we ask for your wisdom and guidance. We know this has been a challenging year for our city. Help us work together, make wise decisions, and be good stewards of the resources entrusted to us. We remain hopeful for new opportunities that will strengthen our community and help position our city for a strong future. Please bless our first responders who protect and serve us every day, and our city staff who will continue to work hard on behalf of our residents. Give this council unity, patience, and good judgment as we make these important decisions. Help us always put the best interests of our residents and our city staff first. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. All right, thank you all. Okay, we'll now receive citizen comments. Do we have any cards for just general comments for these public hearing comments?
I have two.
For general comments? Okay, great. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. As a reminder, under the Texas Open Meetings Act, the council may not deliberate or take action on an item that is not posted on tonight's agenda. We may respond only with factual information, state existing city policy, or request that an item be placed on a future agenda when appropriate. And I will call Syed. Syed, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you, Mayor and Council. I'm Sayeda Syed, and my address is 6705 Sapphire Circle North, Colleyville, Texas 76034. I'm here because I'm your representative at TAD. I have attended all the entity meeting. It was the closed-door meetings. And last entity meeting, Chief Appraiser mentioned that in 2025, Tarrant County overall lost 12% of taxable value. This year, we lost 13.2% of taxable value, and next year, we are going to lose 17% of the taxable value. And those values we are not able to recapture ever. And that is all happened because appraisal district decide not to do their job, that they got paid quarterly payments from entities, and they decide not to do their work and left everything as is. I would like to say a freeze value does not mean it's a fair value. So what happened in 2025, when initially they decide not to appraise any property, 400,000 properties were overvalued. That is 60% of the Tarrant County out of 720,000 accounts. Then 204,000 got reduction because they filed a protest. 195,000 left overvalued. And if you see the data, it shows that if your property value is $500,000 or less, it's more than 80% chance you are overvalued, means you overpaid in your taxes. On the other hand, this year, the BPP exemption, I'm glad your city manager mentioned it, because what happened, you give really, really good example. Just flip the building and take it out everything. But guess what? What happened? We consider one business, one BPP account. What's going on in Tarrant County, some businesses have multiple BPP accounts, like Chick-fil-A. They always have 2 BPP accounts. Some other businesses, I do not want to say their names, but they have 3 or 4 BPP accounts. So instead of getting $125,000 reduction in their valuation, they are getting $375,000 reduction in their BPP valuations. So it is very new for everyone, and for homestead, you have to go, property owner has to go and file the protest with the appraisal district. They have to request appraisal district, please grant us the homestead exemption. But for this exemption, the BPP exemption, no one has to file. It's automatic all over state of Texas. So this is the only update that I can give you right now. And the next year they said, hey, 15%, you are going to see 15% surge. I'm not seeing 15% surge. No, because last 2 years they create unequal and non-uniform all over Tarrant County. And when they are going to make it uniform and equal, the values will go down, and it will not be to 15%. That's the promise done by appraisal district in the last entity meeting. I don't think that's the correct. Thank you for your time, sir.
No, thank you.
By the way, are you running for office this next time, or for the board?
I am on November ballot. I never get chance to vote for you guys, but you have chance this November.
Okay.
To
And
put you
I
to
would say
work.
vote in October.
You have my vote, you have my vote.
Very good, thank you. We have one more. Bernadette Reed, if you'll please come forward and state your name and address. Welcome.
Thank you, good evening. I've never been to one of y'all's meetings, but they're very nice. I live on Kevin Drive, the shortest racetrack in Tarrant County. And I have, the majority of our residents, like probably the populace of the city overall, are seniors. And they struggle with things. My next door neighbors are 85. This side is 82. I don't even know about her. Anyway, there is a house at the end of our little street on Chafin and Landy, and I cannot get an address as it's not evident on the house, and what's on the curb is long gone as far as weather. I wish I'd have brought, I have pictures on my phone, which is of no value at this moment, but they've lost 2 trees and they're laying in the yard. The garage door stays open halfway every day, all day. It is a nightmare. There's like 2 giant oak trees laying there. And it's really bad. I think it's a rental property. I think when we first moved here 14 years ago that it was a family, and whatever happened, they're gone. Because I've seen different families live in there over the years. So I think it's a rental. It needs extreme attention, and I'm here at the behests of 5 of the big people that live on Kevin Drive. Because they're getting citations for grass. And one has cancer and all this stuff, and she can't do anything. And then the other ones, are 85, and I already mow their yard. Then I mow their yard, and we try to keep things going. And if they get a citation, I said, well, let's see what we can do. And I've been very successful in obtaining kindness and having some of these issues resolved. That house is causing a real point of issue with the people on my street because they're getting citations for grass, driveway, junk on the porch, big broken limb. But yet there is a grossly unsafe situation down there. You can't see when you come up to the, yep. And when you come this way, you can't see cars coming this way. Sorry, I'm kind of nervous. I'm just asking for some aggressive attention there, that garage door being halfway open. I just can't imagine what's living in that garage. The wide range from people to 4-legged people. So anyway, that's the only reason I'm here. And I just want to give props to the fire department. Last year they had an emergency at our house and they were exceptional.
That's great.
Thank you.
Anyway,
When you leave later on, there are some cards at the front there. So get my card, Curtis, and then get one for JP. I think yours is probably out there. JP is the guy that you need to contact, and he will, I'm sure they'll be looking into this immediately tomorrow morning, so.
I can't imagine they haven't seen it.
They
I'm not
probably
saying
have.
they're neglecting it, because
Right.
I understand, I see some of the love that it needs to be,
Yeah, there's
bestowed.
probably already a case pending, but like we talked earlier too, we're looking at being more aggressive for habitual.
I heard, yeah, I thought that
So
was impressive.
It's time, so,
I will.
Yeah.
I appreciate your help.
okay, great.
Thank
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right.
We should see why the vacancy ordinance is did not kick in on this. Either it's less than 3 months or.
Vacancy ordinance?
Yeah.
Where people don't occupy a house?
Yeah, when you don't, it should kick in and,
Yeah.
and they give you, the maintenance part, everything needs to be
set up in the city.
Yeah,
Anytime a house turns over, it's supposed to be checked across the board.
Good.
The challenge is we need to know it's
Yeah,
turning over.
that may be one of the tools that we haven't been using too much, the vacancy ordinance, so anyway, look into that. Okay, great. Well, now I'll move to council comments. Do any of the council members have anything that they'd like to talk about? We're doing community interest right now, so.
I got a number of items, Mayor.
Okay.
First one, this is a really special day for me. The Lord blessed me twice on this day, once with the birth of my daughter and once when my grandson was born. I want to wish them both a happy birthday, and I apologize for not joining them for dinner. And I'm picking up the tab, guys. Know it. Second item on the list is, boy, our residents don't realize how well our staff has the residents' backs. I get to see it from the backside a lot, and I don't think residents begin to see it. Our finance department, as part of the analysis of this budget, went through all of our water and sewer and the normal bills that go along with the taxes, put that together and stacked all of us up against 18 surrounding communities and presented that and said, this is where we're sitting and this is what the impact of the changes are going to be on our residents, not but from the property tax piece, but from all of it. And I just really want to say thank you to the staff. I want to say thank you to the finance group, and frankly, all the other departments have kicked into this too. Really, I know you've got our backs. I appreciate it a lot. Moving on.
By the way, I think the rest of the city council echoes that as well, too.
I can't speak for them, but I appreciate the thought. Ion Water told me I got a leak, and I'm out isolating the lines and trying to figure out where that leak is, because I didn't want to, calling in a plumber is just not in my budget. I was out reading the meter box, and the Richland Hills Police Department stopped by and said, hey, the city will look after that for you. And I said, I'm working a leak, and she said, the city will look after that for you. I'm a little dense at times, and what I figured out is that officer was making sure that I wasn't messing with the city water meter. Once I closed that lid, I went about my business and they went about their business. So kudos to Richland Hills PD. They're really supporting the utilities and making a difference. And last item, to do this research, I had to figure out how to read the water meter. That little thing's got 4 little things in it. It measures water down to the half teaspoon a minute. It's a miracle. I don't necessarily understand how it works, but I do know that Public Works was able to get me very quickly a sheet that says, this is the water temperature, this is the firmware version, this is the number of gallons you're using, down to the hundredths of a gallon. And, oh, by the way, when it says a leak, it's been doing it for 24 hours without a 15-minute interrupt. Wow. Today at 11, I got a note that said, your water leak has stopped. I have identified that it's not between the house and the street. I'm moving forward. Anyway, thank you to Public Works for the amazing water meters. That's it, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Very good, thanks. All right. Mayor Pro Tem Moya.
All right.
Share with us.
Community interest items, after-school program at the Link, we are enrolling now. Senior lunch bunch and bingo, second Thursday each month in the Link Community Room. The food pantry is the second Thursday of each month from 5:30 to 7 p.m. Food pantry,
Is that at the Richland Hills Baptist Church? I think Richland Hills Baptist Church?
I believe it is.
okay.
Not anymore.
Oh,
Where is it?
They're not gonna be having it over there anymore.
they moved it,
Again?
or we're pending?
They've come up, they want you have to do it every week.
Okay.
And then have support inside the church. And we don't have that kind of money.
Right.
So they're working on something else, but we will not have the Tarrant County Food Bank there anymore.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Jean.
Okay.
Thank you.
Senior social time at the library, Thursdays at 10 a.m. Richland Hills Literary Club, second Tuesday of each month at the library, 6:30 p.m. For Everybody fundraiser is at Red Robin, which is right outside the Northeast Mall. This Thursday, August 27th, all day. Stickerpalooza, okay. All right, Friday, September 18th at the library from 5 to 6 p.m. Trail Tale, take a walk with the library. Visit hike and bike trails near Latham Drive and join an international movement that combines literacy, exercise, nature, and family bonding. The Family Craft Night will be Friday, September 11th at the library from 5 to 6:30 p.m. And the library lab is Tuesday, September 29th at the library from 5 to 6 p.m. And just a quick note about the flash vote. Go out there and make your voice heard. Sign up for Flash Vote today. Get a short 1-minute survey every few months.
Okay, bulk pickup is also, starts on September 14th. You can start putting things out September 5th, as long as they are out by 7 a.m. on the 14th.
You can start as early as when?
September 5th, a week before. The Saturday, a week Saturday.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, right now is a little early.
yeah, but just to start planning your, if you've got to get a contractor to cut your trees, or you have to start planning time off to accommodate whatever it is.
Clean out a garage.
September, yeah, clean out your garage.
Don't just spit it on my wife.
Very good.
Yep. I know it's not necessarily Richland Hills, but our schools feed into Birdville High School. So after you go do your For Everybody fundraiser on the 27th, it's Birdville High School's first football game at Birdville at 7:30.
Go Hawks.
There's also a Richland Middle School PTA meeting September 3rd. So go out and support your kids.
Good deal. You don't have to have kids in school to be on the
No, you
PTA
don't.
either, do
Yeah.
you? Okay. Very good. All right, thank you all. All right, item 7A is the July department reports, and Jason, I believe we have Terry Leak tonight. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So Mayor and Council, Terry Leak, who you all hopefully remember, and we're grateful that she is helping us through not only our audit, she is, I'll just say, she was the savior. Here's the reality. If the audit was not completed on the day that it was, your tax rate tonight would have to go to the no new revenue rate. So she single-handedly came in. Of course, Chief Sylvester was a big part of this as well, but she got Terry to come back out of retirement and help us. And so she's done that. She's also transitioned to help us with what you heard the auditors tell you back in April, that we needed help reconciling, making sure things got done. So she's been instrumental in doing that for us. So I wanted to make sure you knew how grateful that I am, and I know you are as well. She's here tonight to give you an update on the quarterly investment report and financials.
Perfect. Thanks.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is state-required quarterly investment report for the quarter ended June 30th of, excuse me, 2026. During the quarter, we started with holdings of a little over 31 million. Because this is the time of the year when our taxes are collected during the first quarter, we begin to spend it in the second quarter. And we have been working on some of the projects like Cecil, the 23 bond projects as well. So we had a decrease in the holdings in our portfolio and ended it at 29.2 million. We did have interest earnings during the quarter of almost 209,000. Our average interest rate for the quarter was 2.74. That's 8 basis points below what it was the prior quarter of the average of 2.82. Our balance in the portfolio between what we have in checking and what we have in the pool remained the same. The checking was 54% of the portfolio. The pools were 46%. And we had interest earnings of In the checking of 1.78 was the average earning, and in the pools is 3.71. I may be here to give you the next quarter's report, so just to let you know, we're trying to do some balancing in our checking account and in our portfolio. Fortunately, we were able to have someone start as in the accountant position, which has been very helpful. So we've been able to do some more things with our investments, and the next quarter will reflect that. And thank you for letting me come back and for your kind words and support. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
We're not going to let you retire.
Everybody says I have no credibility in that anymore. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
Okay, we'll move on. We'll now move to consider the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered routine and may be approved with one motion unless a council member or citizen requests that an item be removed for separate discussion. Item 8A is approval of the minutes from the August 17th, 2026 City Council meeting. Item 8B is approval of the resolution number 664-26 approving a negotiated settlement between the Atmos Cities Steering Committee and Atmos Energy Corporation, Mid-Texas Division, regarding the company's 2026 rate review mechanism filing. Does anyone wish to remove an item from this? Okay, hearing none, the suggested motion is I move to approve consent agenda items 8A and 8B as presented. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I make that motion?
I need a second. Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Good deal. Okay, item 9A is consideration of ordinance number 1544-26, approving and adopting the City of Richland Hills fiscal year 2027 budget. Jason, will you please present this item?
Yes, sir. So, Mayor, as mentioned in the work session, this is a budget that will begin October 1st, 2026 and run through September 30th, 2027. So we call it the fiscal year 2027 budget. There are 19 funds that this budget spans across, which maintains your recurring core services as well as your capital projects. All funds, revenue-wise, is $25.19 million. Your expenditures are $26.71. Part of that is $1 million going from the TIF closeout out. So you're really not pulling 1.52 fund balance out. I mean, if you take that TIF calculation out, it's really the $520,000. There is a record vote for this budget. It is based on the M&O tax rate. That's the voter approval tax rate. So that is one important item to note. What you would need to do is consider this, and then if you approve this, your next item would be to ratify because it's going above the no new revenue rate. So any questions related to what this entails, I'm happy to answer those or have our finance folks help as well. This is a balanced budget for the general fund, as mentioned previously. And so we are prepared to make a recommendation to approve, but happy to entertain any questions, council.
I think you've pretty much explained it all over the last 4 or 5 meetings. Explained it very well.
All right, so this doesn't necessarily, we vote this budget, and as long as we are at least at the approval rate, we're good. If we go above that, this would have some surplus to it.
That's correct.
And that's a later item on the agenda.
So if you voted on a tax rate on the public hearing portion at a higher rate, that would generate additional revenue, but you're not authorizing any additional expenditures with that vote. This budget is telling you that you're going to spend $26.71 million.
You'd have to make budget amendments then, wouldn't you?
Yes.
So just to clarify, there needs to be you're adopting your budget based on the tax rate you're voting on in the budget. So based on your vote on the budget, you can't go above the tax rate that the budget contemplates. So if the budget's contemplating a lower tax rate, then there would need to be another vote on a budget with a higher tax rate, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And we can calculate, if that's council's pleasure, we can sit here and calculate.
So in short, the tax rate discussion kind of has to happen at the same time as the budget discussion.
Okay, so if you went above, that rate has to change tonight. Can't be in
In
September.
this.
Yes, you have to approve your budget, and you can only make your tax levy based on the tax rate your budget contemplates.
Okay.
All right.
So, what am I hearing? Are we planning on making changes, or are we gonna be the?
From what Jason has said, I'm very uncomfortable with the margins we're dealing with the economy we've got. We're really tight. Our departments are razor thin edges. And if we were to go to a 0.58 tax rate and build the budget on that, it would give us a little bit of breathing room. And that would ensure we could deliver on our services and that we could deliver on our personnel and a lot of pieces. Again, my concern is the economy around us is cloudy. And the cities around us are all saying the same kind of thing. I'm seeing it in our multiple cities. The real saving grace on this is if the voters don't like it, we drop back to basically this budget, and that's a win. I'm somewhat in favor of putting this moving to a 0.58 base rate and letting the voters come back to us if they don't like it. And if they think that we're doing the right thing and funding our residents, funding our firefighters, our police department, our public works a little better, I think that's a positive statement on the voters' part. But what we're doing here doesn't give the voters a statement. We're doing it for them.
So you want to increase our tax rate even further than what
Well,
is already
this
presented
is
right now?
the 3.5% rate.
Yeah, so you want to increase it a little more?
A little bit. Go up to 0.58, which is 3 cents below the de minimis. So it's a pinch, not a punch.
Is that pinch gonna make or break our city? Just asking.
We're on the margin.
Okay, but,
And so my thinking is it gives me a little more breathing room.
right,
And it's not I'm not putting a big bubble of air up there. I'm just giving a little bit of breathing room in case things that need maintenance pop up. And you look at our streets that are 70 years old, you look at our plumbing, and granted, plumbing, it can increase willy-nilly because that comes out of the monthly rate.
it's
But
enterprise.
the other stuff, it doesn't. And so I'd just like folks to consider it. And I understand the pain. We're all feeling the pain. It's getting to the point I can't buy donuts. So it's really that crazy. But I love this city. Our residents love this city. We should fund our people and our equipment and have a little margin.
Well, the current rate that we're talking about isn't going to not fund them.
Right.
But we're really fine.
No,
I just don't want that to be misleading to say that if you
Right.
increase it,
So-
people aren't getting paid.
So when Jason presented this budget, he presented a step plan for the public safety. We are going to be doing 8 to 10 streets. That's
Yeah.
not been done before. And in this budget, in this current budget,
And
with that amount,
we're
with that
using,
amount we're talking about.
we're using
we
a
brought it up
street
to the
sales tax to do
95%.
Yeah,
those
we brought it up.
streets.
What's
Yes,
that?
we're using a street sales tax to do that mill and overlay on those streets, you're right.
Yes, we're using that, and we're going to be doing 8 to 10 streets.
Oh,
So
I'm-
we are putting that in this budget. Are we not delivering services, or we're cutting any services off in this budget? No, we're not. So I don't understand why we want to increase. Just now we just passed one for the Atmos, which our residents are going to get a 9% increase there, and then there's going to be another, 6.5.
The water and
for
sewer.
Atmos
Yep.
Water and
itself.
sewer.
everyone is suffering. We should not be raising our taxes at this point to, whatever we can do for next year, we will look. It's, right now, what we look at is it's council's, here we are on the dais to solve problems. We are not here to tax people and try to mitigate whatever. That's not the way we should run our business.
I feel like if we have a balanced budget with this tax rate proposed, there's no
it's-
reason to go anywhere else.
We're taking 500,000 that is in reserve. That's not, in my mind, balanced. Our revenues are less than our expenses.
We're balanced as far as having the fund balance to cover it.
Oh, yeah, we've definitely got the fund balance this year to cover it.
So we don't need a slim margin because we've got what we need to do what we need to do. Between now and next year, there's going to be a lot of changes, a lot of new things, and we can deal with it. We can amend the budget throughout the year. There's a lot of things we can do rather than just taking money that we don't need so that we have it in case we need it.
We've got streets, we got 50 miles of streets, and not a one of them is, actually, that's not true. We have a few new streets, but most of our streets are crumbling.
But the tax rate increase you're asking for isn't going to pay for it.
It won't pay, it won't put a lot.
Put a few sidewalks in.
It won't put sidewalks in, but it'd do a few more blocks of mill and overlay. It'd do another 2 or 3 repairs of water and sewer lines and the kind of maintenance we got, and hopefully do it in a budgeted manner, which is 40% less cost than doing it ad hoc.
So let me say, I had a feeling this discussion was gonna come up. So yesterday, I looked at what our neighbors were doing, not Fort Worth or Mega City. I don't look at them. Hearst is only doing, basically the voter approval rate. And, I mean, we can talk about their sales tax. Their sales tax is actually on the decline. It's been on the decline. Their mall is not the juggernaut it used to be. North Richland Hills is doing, the voter approval. Oldham City is different. They've had such a big economic boom this last year. Today, I looked at Watauga. Watauga's,
Watauga's
out of
odd.
the cities I mentioned, they're closer to us in population and size. They're still bigger, but closer than the other cities. They're basically doing the no new revenue rate.
Right.
And they're all those cities are having the same financial strains we
Yeah.
are, but.
Yeah, Watauga's odd. They're doing greater than de minimis, greater than voter approval, and
They did the de
.0006%
minimis-
less
They did the
than,
de minimis last year.
yeah.
I watched their last
Yeah.
city council meeting today, because I'm boring like that. They're doing basically the no new revenue rate.
Right, and, which is odd, because it's above de minimis, but, yes, you're right. Everything you said is accurate.
Right.
And we're all in the same boat.
So I feel like the budget is being fiscally responsible to the citizens that live here, because we are using some reserves, plus we still have more reserves back behind that as well, too. We still have more than 90 days on a lot of this, too, so.
So you think at the end of this year, we'll have enough reserves for next year?
We can't live on reserves. We have to come back with, we have to come back, and that's one which Jason said that we're gonna, look at the car the fleet expenses.
Right.
Try and move it to INS.
Right.
Get our MNO more, opened up for other things. There are things we can do. There should be more economic development opportunities coming up. Is that new building on
Yes.
Handley Edaville, that new, is that going to be coming online next year, or is it this year?
Like they are working on
It-
COs.
They're working
They're
on
working on
COs
COs.
right now. So
Okay,
it's- Yes.
so those things are coming up. We will know where we stand and we'll make our decision at that point. But at this time right now, everyone is hurting. I don't think we should keep raising our taxes just because we want to keep something there. It's just a feel-good thing. I don't know what it is, but it's not a feel-good thing for me.
The challenge is this: once we've set this, it's set for the year. And if the ceiling falls out, we have no alternatives. We're locked in. And based on what I've heard.
We brace the ceiling so it doesn't fall in.
Okay,
Let me add, just to clarify what, every penny on the tax rate increases revenue about $90,859. So where we're at with the voter approval, between there and the de minimis is about 350-something thousand. If you went, at the 58-cent mark, you would be gaining about 99,000. And what would that look like would be just rolling into general fund balance. And I, just from when I, meet with Terry and Vicky on this, our fund balance in the general fund is over $1 million above the 90-day reserve. There's somewhat of a threshold that you look at of how much are you, not padding, but how much are you putting in that reserve
we can't go
above? So right now, we're almost at 50% of the.
and we can't go much higher.
So yeah, that's the kind of the downside of putting money into general fund balance. And then you've got $2.5 million in strategic initiatives. Now, those are for one-time things. Same with the general fund reserves. Anything above 90 days are typically going to be reserved for those one-time or the emergency situations. So that's where I think finance and myself feel more comfortable with where we're at, and then looking into next year as well.
Not only that, but with government budgeting, I mean, there's certain rules and regulations where you cannot have just a
You can't
reserve
go
fund
over.
balance
No.
for willy-nilly. You
No.
have to actually
You have to use it.
name what you're going to use it for.
You have to use it, yes, you do. Absolutely agree with
I
that.
think for $90,000 or whatever it is, for that 1%, you can have an election, or it goes into an election, and then if it comes back down, like you're saying, then we'd have to figure out how to give all that money back to
Yeah, but
for 90,000, yeah.
Would it
even
roll
if
back
we're-
to our
They're not
no
doing
new
that.
revenue rate, or would it roll back to what we're
it
suggesting?
rolls back to this. It rolls back to this.
Okay.
Voter
I wouldn't, if it went back any further than this, I wouldn't even have thought about it, because it just wouldn't be worth the risk. All right, so everybody's in agreement that this is going to work.
You gotta make it work.
Well, we're trusting the people that we hired to do that job and
Yeah.
give us that information. And
Yeah.
from what we've been seeing in the past few months, we've been seeing excellent work and getting us back on track to where we need to be with the
Yeah.
audit and finances
And-
and just there's so many things and other areas too, hiring practices where we have good staff and I trust.
I
what they're
second
doing.
that. I've said that. Okay.
All right. Is there anything else on that you want to, we've got a couple of people that'd like to speak. GW, if you'd like to come up. Tell us where you
GW
live.
Step 6868 Hardesty Street. Council, I just want to make sure that, that everybody understands that the public in general is tightening their belts. John, you said you couldn't afford donuts. I think putting this tax rate to a vote is going to be a disaster. Nobody is going to approve this, right? And it was my understanding, maybe unclear now, that if we went to a vote and they voted it down, we'd go back to a rate lower than the voter approval rate.
No.
That's not true. I think it is bad optics, right? We need to tighten our belts, just like our residents are trying to tighten their belts. And asking them for more money now, bad idea. Bad idea. My 2 cents.
So, to clarify, what do you mean? The proposed rate?
John is proposing to
Well, that's his.
no,
So
the
it's-
proposed rate with the current budget is good.
Okay,
Right.
This-
Going above that, requiring a vote by our residents, bad idea.
I just want to
No, there-
clarify
Yeah.
your opinion. Okay, thank you.
There's nothing there's nothing I propose that requires a vote by the residents.
It doesn't require it, but they can do.
They can go back, yes.
They can petition.
They can
Like I
petition.
said,
They could have,
that-
they could have done that last year,
Yeah.
which was, you know that because you voted it.
Yep.
Okay,
Last year was a different year.
that's true. Thank you. Doug Knowlton, you're next, sir.
Doug Knowlton, 2749 Spruce Park Drive. My concern is what rate you go with tonight is our infrastructure in this city is going downhill rather fast. And you're talking about, you know, $1 million plus a surplus in the general fund right now. I know that there was one particular incident across over here where we had to go under the freeway with some of our sewer line that cost over $500,000 to do this. This is my concern, regardless what rate y'all decide to put in tonight. You know, I know it's gonna hit the taxpayers hard, and it's gonna hit all of us hard. So, I mean, that's a big decision that you guys, and I understand that you could live with the 5.6, and John wants to go 5.8, just to put that little bit of surplus back. And I'll agree either way, you know, I am for either way. I'm just concerned about our aging infrastructure and the repairs that may have to come out of that before all of this new business gets in and things like that, out of the existing monies that you have right now. So that was my concern, all right?
Thank you.
For that one-time thing, we already have that. We got the strategic reserves, and we got, you know, so for one time, any issues we have, we can probably resolve it with those funds.
Well, and just to reiterate, the INS rate is what you use for capital projects. So if you had a water or sewer line that you needed to repair, that you use your enterprise fund.
can use
You issue tax-supported debt, you funnel your water and sewer revenues to pay for that debt. And so capital projects, which is majority of our infrastructure, are on the CIP on the INS side.
Right.
But
So it's,
And we have plenty to deal with that.
And with infrastructure.
We can raise it.
We've talked about 8 to 10 roads being with mill and overlay. Curtis and Jason have really buddied up with the county.
With
I give
county.
them props for that. You know, we're taking care of infrastructure in this budget.
so,
And if we raised it even up to the 61, we're not gonna be able to do
No,
much really anymore. I know that's not what you said, John, you said 58, but even if we went all the way up to that 61.
no, it doesn't cover it. No, it does not cover that $500,000 away. Agreed. And going to that $500,000 takes a lot out of everybody's pocket, and it's too much. But again, we're exposing, we need money to bring in business, we need money to take care of our people. $90K is a lot of money to me in terms of taking care of problems. We're working on the Sunnyside assumption. And I've seen businesses go under based on Sunnyside assumptions. And Richland Hills will not go under. Absolutely not. Cities in Texas routinely, that is so rare, it's almost dinosaurs. It's that rare. So no way do I see that happening, but services can reduce.
All right. Any other council? All right, so the suggested motion tonight is, I move to approve ordinance number 1544-26, adopting the City of Richland Hills fiscal year 2027 annual budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2026 and ending September 30th, 2027 as presented.
Mayor, I move that we adopt that resolution as presented.
All right,
Second.
all right. Thank you. Do you all have any further comments on this?
Nope.
So, Mrs. Boyd, would you please call roll on this one?
I will. When I say your name, please say aye, nay, or abstain. Mayor Pro Tem Witt?
Mayor,
I think you
Whatever.
can
Sorry.
speak up.
I,
was talking.
I, nay, or abstain.
Aye, nay, or abstain.
Aye.
Councilmember Malone?
Aye.
Councilmember Barker?
Aye.
Councilmember Skier?
Nay.
Councilmember Campbell?
You made the motion.
You made the
You made the
motion.
motion.
Still have to record.
That's completely valid under Robert's rules, folks.
Okay.
Still have to record.
We function under Rosenberg's rules. That's
Same.
in our-
Yeah,
We
that's,
don't follow Roberts.
Same.
No.
okay,
Councilmember Govies? 6 ayes and 1 nay.
Okay, the motion passes. Six
That's
to one.
100%.
All right, very good. All right. Item 9B is a separate vote required to ratify the 2027 property tax increase reflected in the 2027 fiscal year 2027 annual budget. Jason, could you please present this item?
Yes, sir. So as mentioned, because you voted on a budget that was raising the effective, the tax rate over the no new revenue rate, state law does require that you ratify the budget with property tax increase. And so there's a statement that has to be read specifically for that. And it's on the screen, yes,
Okay.
sorry.
All right. So, council, do you all have any, well, I'll read it, that's fine, then somebody can just make a motion, unless you want to, that's fine.
Go ahead.
But
Read it.
any council discussion?
No.
It's something we do every year, it's just a requirement, a law, so,
Rubber stamp.
okay?
Yeah. I'll move to ratify the property tax increase reflected in the fiscal year 2027 annual budget, which will raise $90,351 or 1.78% more in property tax revenue than the fiscal year 2026 budget.
Second.
All right, very good, thank you. Would you please call roll, Mrs. Boyd?
Mrs. Earlville?
Mayor Pro Tem Witt,
Aye.
Councilmember Malone,
Aye.
Councilmember Barker,
Aye.
Councilmember Skier,
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Councilmember Govia,
Aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
7 to 0.
7-0.
All right, the vote, motion passes. All right, next item will be a public hearing. We'll now open the public hearing on item 10A concerning ordinance number 1546-26, setting and approving the fiscal year 2027 tax rate. The public hearing is now open at 7:18. All right. Mrs. Boyd, do you have any speakers for this item?
I do not.
Okay, is there anybody who wishes to speak on this? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing at 7:18. All right, Jason, is there anything else?
Yeah, I'll just mention, on the screen, we take the median homestead value, 241,063. That's the taxable value that the appraisal district gives us for our calculations. And so based on that, you see what the proposed rate is compared to what our current rate is today versus the no new revenue. And so that is a $31 increase over the no new revenue rate, and a little over $100, $154 compared to 2026 rates, based on that valued home. Of course, we're not looking at exemptions and tax ceilings and things like that, but just on an average median homestead. So the portion of city taxes on this example would be $1,371, and remember that there's also 4 other taxing entities on your tax bill. So for the residents, you also have the school district, the county, the hospital district, and the college district. And so that total with the city makes up 5 entities that your total tax bill goes toward. But for the portion that goes to the city, it's, on this example, $1,371. For some people that are looking to know, how do I calculate my tax bill? We do have an example at the bottom where you take the taxable value, so whatever appraisal values that you got in the mail, divide that by 100 and multiply by this tax rate. That's what your taxes would be due. Now, if you have exemptions, that's going to change some things. Call our office, we'll help you determine what that looks like. So total tax rate, 0.569027. The maintenance and operations rate is 0.430632, and the debt service rate is 0.138395. Again, this is just another way to show it of what your taking the median homestead example, comparing to the other rates. This is another, something just for educational purposes. Every $100,000, it's $569 per year in city taxes. When you read that statement about the 1.78% on your last one, you're going to read another statement now that says 2.34. So I wanted to make sure everybody understood why that's different. So there's actually this budget produces $90,351 more in property tax revenue, which is 1.78% more. But the 2.34 is actually the effective increase in the actual tax rate compared to the no new revenue. So just wanted to make sure you understood that. There is one other quick thing I didn't mention. Out of that 90,000, about 73,000 is coming from new properties that were added or values that were added to the rolls this year. So the motion, Mayor, is on your screen.
Does anybody else from the audience have anything to add to this? I think I prematurely closed the public hearing earlier, so seeing none, close it at 7:22. All right, any further discussion? Somebody? Okay, very good.
I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of .569027 cents per $100 of taxable value, which is effectively 2.34% increase in the tax rate.
Second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mrs. Boyd, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Witt.
Aye.
Councilmember Malone.
Aye.
Councilmember Barger.
Aye.
Councilmember Skier.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Govies.
Aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
7-0.
Okay, motion passes 7-0. Thank you all very much. So if there's no further business for this meeting,
We're done.
call it adjourned. Mike's off.
Go for it.